Howdy, my good humans. How are you doing? This is Unnecessary Rambling. I am Brandon Sylvia. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to warn y'all out the gate here, not in the world's greatest mood today. This definitely isn't my normal form of content. I try not to make the ranting, overly negative, bullshit content. I try my best, but a little bit annoyed today, and so I'm going to warn you out the gate. I'm sure there's going to be quite a few swear words thrown out here, so if you have an aversion to that, this probably will not be the video for you to watch. I cuss a lot in most of my videos, but I'm especially annoyed today, and it's all regarding this situation with Best Buy killing off all physical media and Walmart killing off all physical games. And then you click on the article and it's like, oh wait, no, they're not. And we'll get into all this step by step here. I'm just gonna let my thoughts go where they may. So I apologize for the lack of cohesion with this video today, but it's something I really want to talk about. But I mean, it's no secret that physical media is not in the best place that it's ever been in. It's no secret that it's going to continue to decline, but I want to put a different perspective out there. I want to give you guys my thoughts on why I think that, at least in the game space, that physical media will remain for quite some time. And shout out to my damn Ubisoft executive fella. He went on record, what was it, a couple days ago, where he's like, yeah, I think physical media will remain in the game space forever. He's talking about the collector's market, people wanting to go into a store and buy a gift for a friend and have actual ownership over the things that they buy. So shout out to that fella. I pretty much agree wholeheartedly. And I just want to kind of go bit by bit, touch on a few different things that I see circulating quite a bit and offer up a different take on it. And first and foremost is this unbelievably disingenuous stat that, and it's not it's a real stat, but there's so many more layers to it than what initially meets the eye. And that is that 90% of all game sales are digital in 2023. And while that is true, that is also accounting for mobile game sales. That is also accounting for PC game sales, which no longer really do physical, like big box releases much at all anymore. So when you take that out of the equation, which mobile is like the most dominant, form of gaming in the industry, that's where the majority of people who do game, they play on mobile, believe it or not. And when you take mobile and PC out of the equation, I think I'm not saying it's an incredible split, but it's probably more around like 70-30 is what I've seen reported. And that's what I would tend to believe, and also that's including Xbox, which has a much weaker physical presence than Switch and PS5. And that is the stat that I see circulating most often to add even more doom and gloom to the physical media, the death of the physical media, adding more credence to that argument. And I just don't think that 70-30 that's not the number I would want. I would wish that it was 50-50 or even swayed heavily into the physical media versus digital media sales for modern consoles. But I just have a really hard time seeing 30%. If you owned a store and you had these two products and 30% of people bought one and 70% of people bought the other, it's like, why not keep both products? You know what I mean? It doesn't have to necessarily be, okay, we got to strip out this one product to only have we don't have to cut off the 30% of our fan base who likes this one thing just to continue catering to the 70% who like the other thing. Sure, the 30% are in the minority, but that's still a pretty fucking good chunk of people. And I mean, you even saw PlayStation double down recently on physical media, where for the new PS5 Slim variant of the console, you can get a digital version, and then if you end up changing your mind later, you can now buy a detachable disc drive for like $80. And to me, that just doesn't seem like a company who is slowly phasing out physical media. And, on the other end, to be fair, Xbox does seem to be phasing out physical media. If the leaks are to be believed, that they're going to go with an all digital Series X for their next, for their next like updated console variant. But Xbox has been pushing heavily towards this all digital ecosystem for a while, with required internet check-ins to be able to play your games and shit like that. Like, they are a very DRM reliant ecosystem, and physical media doesn't have much of a place within that ecosystem. And then on the Switch side of things, it was reported that in 2020, that was the first year ever that the Nintendo had more digital purchases than physical purchases for software. And like, that was the year that everyone was locked inside and stores were shut down and yada, yada, yada. It's like, okay, sure. Let's just assume, because I haven't seen reports since then about the physical to digital split for Nintendo, but let's just assume that the digital takeover continued, in the 3 years that followed, and we're now at like 60-40. Digital to physical, or, digital having 60%, physical having 40% of the overall software sales for Nintendo. You're telling me Nintendo's going to abandon 40% of their user base? You're telling me Nintendo's going to strip away the way that 40% of their fans like to consume their content? Listen, I'll tell you straight up, I am biased in my arguments here for physical media. Obviously, you look behind me, you see I prefer physical media, but I think I'm a realist. Like, I don't think I'm an optimist. If anything, I would say I'm a bit more pessimistic than optimistic. And when I look at the reality of this situation, I do not see a world. The Switch 2 is not going to be all digital. It's just not. Nintendo is not going to transition to an all digital ecosystem if close to half of their user base prefers physical. They're just not going to do that. If I'm wrong, I swear to God, I will eat my words. I'll fucking come on here, record a video wearing I'll draw a damn L on my forehead, write it in marker. Swear to God, I am A-okay with admitting when I'm wrong. I do not see a fucking world where the Switch 2 comes out and it's all digital. I do not see a possible, like, out of, when they do the Avengers thing, out of 845 alternate realities.
Forward in time, to view alternate futures, to see all the possible outcomes of the coming conflict.
How many did you see?
14,605,000.
There's not one scenario where I can see the Switch 2 being all digital. Not one. And for the PlayStation 6, could I see a reality where the PS6 launches with only a digital variation? Yeah, I think I could see that. But I honestly do believe that if that is the case, it'll be like this PS5 Slim variation, where sure, it's all digital, but you can get a detachable disk drive for an additional $80, $100, whatever the price point is in 2028. I will give you, it's a lot more likely that the PlayStation 6 will be all digital than the Switch 2. But even then, I really truthfully do not see the PS6 being 100% digital. I don't see it. You can call me crazy, but I don't believe that'll be the case. So just humor me and my hypothetical scenario that I'm building here. If the Switch 2 supports physical media and it launches in, 2024 and it has an 8-year life cycle, so 2032, once again, humor me in my hypothetical scenario that I'm building here, 2032, before we have to worry about Nintendo going all digital. If the PS6 launches in 2028 and it has an 8-year life cycle, well, that'd be 2036, right? I'm fucking horrible at math. So in this hypothetical scenario that I'm building here, which I do think is rooted in some form of reality, I don't think we really have to worry about it. We do have to worry about it, and we have to take action now if we want physical media to be around, in 20, 30 years. But legitimately do think we're talking about 20, 30 years before physical games are totally phased out. If they're ever phased out at all. You know what I mean? Like, vinyl definitely is not selling as well as physical video games, and vinyl is still around. You know, I know that in this industry, we're a lot more dependent upon the console manufacturers, which is a real issue, but I still don't think it's nearly as doomy and gloomy right now as people are suggesting. It is time to act, for sure, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but I do think physical games are going to be around a lot longer than a lot of, you know, analysts or journalists or whatever are suggesting. So I guess let's go ahead and jump straight into the reason for my frustration with any of this in general. And that is that there were a bunch of reports that were hitting simultaneously. I'm scrolling through my damn Twitter feed and just seeing this shit nonstop, and I'm like, oh shit, you know, when I see these headlines, I freak out for a moment. I see Best Buy is gonna stop selling physical media in 2024, and I see IGN, you know, they posted. I click on it, I'm like, holy shit, and then 2 seconds into the article, it's like, oh no, they're just gonna stop selling DVDs and Blu-ray, which 100% that sucks. It absolutely sucks. But when I see a headline that says Best Buy is gonna phase out physical media, it's like, okay, I mean, I get it. Everybody's in this for the clicks, but it's like, that seems a bit, you know, intentionally disingenuous, or, you know, and then it's, you see all the headlines about the Best Buy, and it's the same shit for, there are quite a few publications out there that will put in their headline, Best Buy's phasing out DVD and Blu-ray sales in 2024, and I really appreciate that. So I don't want to just make this all shitting on the kind of intentionally disingenuous articles out there, but the same was true for the next scenario that popped up, where it was Walmart is discontinuing all video game sales in 2024, and this happens like right after the Best Buy fiasco. And so I'm a little bit more kind of cautious before jumping into this and believing it with 100% certainty. And lo and behold, I see the headline, Walmart is doing away with all physical video game sales in 2024. I click on it, 2 sentences into the fucking article, they're only doing away with Xbox game sales. And it's like, dude, that's a lot different than doing away with all video game sales. And like I said, everybody's fighting for clicks. It's a rough landscape. There's so many millions of different things vying for our attention at all times. But it's like, truthfully, I'll tell you the way I felt. It felt like, because the thing with physical media is it's not in a great spot. It's not in a great place right now. And it felt like adding insult to injury, rubbing salt in the wounds, and intentionally misinforming people to paint physical media to be in worse shape than it already is in. Does it suck that Blu-ray and DVD sales are going away? For sure. Does it suck that Xbox physical game sales are going away? For sure. Nobody's disputing that. But that's a whole hell of a lot different than Walmart is doing away with all physical video games in 2024, and Best Buy is doing away with all physical media in 2024. That's drastically different. The wording in those headlines should be drastically different, man. I think we can all agree on that. And then seeing the response to this stuff was really jarring to me as well, where like in the comment section, people were like cheering for the death of physical media. And I was really appalled by this shit. And I know that there's, you know, just so many miserable motherfuckers on the internet, or just trolls, people who just want to get a rise out of people. But it was like, man, I really hope y'all don't like sincerely feel this way, because less options is just inherently a bad thing, and it's pro-corporation and anti-consumer. And that's like, why do you want to live in this dystopic hellhole where the people dictating what we can purchase and for what price we can purchase are console manufacturers and publishers, and, you know, not having any middleman in there at all to, you know, give you the option to return your physical disc and then, trade it in to get something else if you didn't like it, or to lend it to a buddy, and like all these advantages of physical media. Like, why would you just want to see that go away? I don't, if you're, an all digital person, like, I don't care. I don't hold anything against you. I don't think you're a bad human being, but I do find it really weird if you're like wishing for the disappearance of physical media. That's a fucking bizarre mindset to have, in my opinion. All right, but let's transition over to like, what can we actually do? If you are in similar shoes to me, if you, are of a similar mindset and you want physical media to stick around, what the hell can we actually do as we're seeing trends move closer and closer to this all digital dystopic hellhole, which like I said, we're still a ways out, so don't panic yet. But obviously, first and foremost, we got to vote with our wallet. You know what I mean? And it's tough for sure. Like my most anticipated game for the rest of the year is Alan Wake 2. It's not even close. I desperately want to play that game, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it digitally. If it gets a physical run, if it gets a physical release, I'll be there day one purchasing that thing, but I'm not buying it digitally. I'm not going to buy games from AAA publishers, AAA developers. If you have $150+ million budget for your game, $100 million budget for your game, and you can't section out a little corner there of that budget to have a physical print run, I'm sorry, man. I'm not going to support that bullshit. I'm just not going to support it. And I know I don't mean to because I don't think this is a Remedy decision. I would be willing to bet if it was up to Remedy and Remedy alone, I would think that there would probably be a physical version of Alan Wake 2 at launch. Because, I mean, Alan Wake 1, the remaster, they did a physical print run of that. And you would think if one or the other was going to get, the physical version cut, it would probably be the remaster and not the brand new game that they want everyone possible to play. I think this is much more of an Epic decision than it is a Remedy decision. And even a lot of the justification sounds like bullshit to me. We're going to, if we put it out physically, we'd have to commit to the $70 price tag, and we don't want our players to have to pay that. I want to pay that. Hear me out. Put your headphones on. If anybody from Remedy or whoever is listening to this, I want to pay you $70. Put it on store shelves. Let me buy a physical copy. I will pay you $70 fucking dollars. And I'm fine with paying a $10 upcharge to get it physically. I would be fucking K with paying you an extra $10 to actually own my game. But even like Baldur's Gate 3, it's been sitting there tempting me on the PlayStation Store, one of the highest reviewed games of all time. I'm sitting there looking at it, weekly, thinking about, damn, I really want to buy this thing, but I'm holding off. I'm not doing it. I'm just simply not doing it. And that's a little bit more justifiable, in my opinion, developed and published independently by Larian. That's a lot different than what's going on with Epic publishing Alan Wake 2, and there's definitely the budget for a physical print run for Alan Wake 2. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And I do think, even with Baldur's Gate 3, you're seeing that I think there's a Japanese release that we're going to be getting at the end of the year. So you're going to get Baldur's Gate 3 physically at some point. I just don't think Larian had planned for this game to be nearly as successful as it is. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's my number one kind of, that's the hill I'm going to die on. That's where I'm planting my flag. That I truly will not. I absolutely 100% refuse to buy AAA titles digitally for full price digitally. I just will not do it. If you are a AAA publisher and you can't commit to a physical release of your game, too bad, so sad, man. I am totally out. I'll happily take my damn $70 and throw it to Ubisoft if they're committing to their physical releases. I'll go and buy a copy of damn Avatar Pandora Frontiers of Pandora instead of buying Alan Wake 2 this holiday season. And I'm A-okay with making that decision. Sure, I'm willing to bet Alan Wake 2 is going to be a little bit better than Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, but at least I'll have a fucking copy of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora that I actually own. And let me be clear, so I don't add more to this doom and gloom hellscape of everybody being so goddamn negative about physical media, which, granted, there's a ton of reasons to be negative about the state of physical media at the time being, but to add some positivity here, 99% of AAA publishers will publish a physical release of their game. And even AA and indie publishers, they have been really consistent this generation with publishing physical variations of their game. I mean, just looking over at my shelf here, Fort Solace, Wildcard Football, Trepang 2, Lake, Cult of the Lamb, Proteus, Trek to Yomi, Stray, a game I'm picking up in a couple days, Quantum Error, I believe is independently developed and published, super small team, getting a physical release. Daymare 1994, a game that I just recently played through, got a physical release day one. Dredge, physical release. Killer Frequency, physical release. And these are all games that came out this year. Lies of P, RoboCop, the new RoboCop game that's coming out in a couple weeks. Remnant 2, the Ad Infinitum horror game. Once again, looking over at my shelf here, we got Under the Waves, Immortals of Avium, Atlas Falling, Crime Boss Rocket City. Like, these are not, humongous AAA. Immortals of Avium somewhat in that realm, one of the EA original titles. But listen, physical media is still being supported. And that's the other thing. When it comes back to us, we need to support physical media. You know what I mean? We need to vote with our wallet. I'm not saying you got to be a dipshit like me and throw money at anything that looks mildly interesting to you, but the only fucking way to make your message clearly heard to these publishers is to vote with your wallet. If physical games are still relevant and are still, like, let's just assume it stays at this 70-30 split, which I'm sure it will not, but let's say for the sake of argument that we can keep it at this 70-30 split, then physical media will stick around. Nobody is going to give up on 30% of their market. And another thing I really recommend doing is following Does It Play on Twitter, and I'll put their handle right here, that way you can see the account. It is hands down the most informative, reliable source of information regarding physical media in the industry. And it is frustrating for me to constantly hear people saying, well, why would I, buy modern games physically when they all require day one patches and day one downloads and bug fixes and all this and that? And it's just like, that's not even close to true. It's not even like remotely true. I think that 85 or over 80% of PS5 games on their database that they have tested and researched, they are fully playable on the disc without any patch, without any update. You can grab the game, open the damn case, put it in the damn console, turn off your internet, and play through the whole thing just fine. Over 80%. So it's like this stat that you just keep hearing over and over because a few games, a few Cyberpunks out there, a few NBA 2Ks, these common examples of games that came out and were in a horrible, horrible fashion on their release, day one, and had subsequent patches that cleaned it up. And now that is like looked at as what all modern games are. And that's like the standard that people think all modern games release like that on their disc. And it's just simply not true at all. The majority of games are fully playable from start to finish. A lot of the updates and bug fixes and shit like that, it's more just like quality of life updates. I played Beyond Good and Evil. The first Beyond, well, there's only one Beyond Good and Evil, unfortunately, but I played Beyond Good and Evil this year. And often I was thinking to myself, man, it sure would be nice if they could go in and update the camera controls for that game, because the camera controls are god-awful. And that's what a lot of these updates and patches are for modern games. It's like, oh shit, yeah, let's go in and tinker with that camera a little bit. Oh, there's this little minor bug here where people clip through, or hair clips through the clothing, or people clip through this certain environment. It's like little minor things that can be cleaned up with bugs and patches, and we should be thankful for that, because we didn't get that in the PS2, PS1, and previous generations. Like, that wasn't a thing we could rely on. But the inverse is also true of developers and publishers who abuse that functionality, and they will put out bullshit on day one, and it's just like, oh, well, we'll clean it up as it goes along. That's totally fucking unacceptable. If you paid 70, 60, 50, I don't give a fuck if you paid $20 for a physical disc and you put that thing in your console and it's bullshit and totally broken at launch, that is utterly unacceptable. But that's why I recommend following Does It Play, because they do a lot of testing for these issues, and you can kind of stay up to date of which games maybe to avoid buying physical copies of. And it's also something that you can cite whenever you're seeing people do the bullshit misinformation propaganda, their anti-physical media propaganda that they're pushing out there, where they're saying all games require day one patches and updates to even be moderately playable. You can say, hey, well, 83, or I don't know the exact number, 80 something % of all PS5 games are fully playable from front to back on their disc day one, without any patch, without any update, without any internet requirement. So yeah, I don't know. Go follow those guys. They oftentimes they ease my pains, and they make me feel quite a bit less frustrated and a little bit more optimistic about the state of the physical games market. And it's not sponsored or anything. I like their shit. But let's ponder. Let's ponder for a second here. Let's get back into this negative mindset for a minute here. What would I do in a reality where I'm totally wrong and the next generation of consoles are 100% digital? Well, the first thing I would do would be to go to my local retailer and buy a Nintendo Switch 2, because like I told you, there is 0%, there is zero alternate realities out there available to us where the Nintendo Switch 2 is all digital. And I absolutely fucking hate that ecosystem, have zero interest in any of their first party games whatsoever. But if they're the company that's offering me ownership of the things that I buy, I'm a goddamn fucking 30-year-old Nintendo guy. I hate thinking of that reality so much. But let's go back to the root of the question here. Let's paint it how I initially laid it out there. What if all of the consoles were 100% digital? The PS6, the Switch 2, the Series Y, which, I'm pretty sure the next Xbox console will be digital only, especially the next generation of Xbox consoles. But let's paint it out. What if they were all 100% digital, including the Switch 2? What would I do in that scenario? Would I still buy modern games? Yeah, I think I would still buy modern games. Would I ever buy those games on day one? Abso-fucking-lutely not. I would become a cheap motherfucker. I would become so cheap with how I decided to purchase my games. And I'm not that way at all now. I love buying games on day one. I don't want anything spoiled for me. I don't really want to know anything about the gameplay, the story, any of that. I want to dive in day one, check it out, and kind of be able to make my mind up about the product before I'm swarmed with information from other people. I like playing games that way. But I actually get to own something with that purchase. And so I'm A-okay with it. But if we get to a reality where that's not possible, if that's not an option, I'm going to become so unbelievably goddamn cheap. I will be playing nothing but damn Game Pass and subscription service content. I'll be playing nothing but, going to the digital store whenever they do their 90% off sales. Like, I'll probably never play another game in the year that it launches ever again in my life. I don't give a shit if it's Resident Evil 12. I don't give a shit if it's Grand Theft Auto probably 6. If we're assuming that this all digital hellhole takes place by like 2028, probably we'll still be waiting on GTA 6 by then. But I don't give a damn what it is. My most anticipated game ever, I will not buy at full price digitally. I will not do it. And being totally honest, like, if it wasn't for physical media, I would probably be playing on Xbox more than PlayStation. You know, one of the only things that keeps me, obviously the first party stuff has historically been better on PlayStation, but I think those tides are kind of changing a little bit now with the live service initiative. But the fact that I can, you know, grab a physical copy of a game and actually own the thing and play it offline without any of the DRM bullshit, that's one of the things that keeps me around for, for PlayStation and mainly playing on PlayStation. If that reality wasn't available for me anymore, sure, I'll just be a Game Pass guy. I'll just play nothing but what's on Game Pass. There's enough in there to live on for a long time, along with my back catalog of stuff that I want to replay, stuff that I haven't played yet, and then the digital sales where I can buy, you know, collections of 10 games for $20 at the end of the year on Black Friday sales and shit like that. Sure, I'll happily be a cheap motherfucker. If a publisher can't give me the option to own the content that I'm purchasing from them, too bad, so sad. I really just don't have any sympathy for you whatsoever. Like I said, I love buying games on day one and will continue to do so for eternity as long as they're available to me physically and I can actually own what I'm buying. But the day that becomes impossible, I don't know what to tell you. Too bad. You're losing the sale for me. And I'm not the fucking end-all be-all opinion. It does seem that people, by and large, are fine with digital consumption. And I don't think those people are bad or fucking invalid in their opinion. Everybody's going to have their own beliefs and the way that they want to consume content, and this is the way that I consume my damn content and the way I prefer to consume my content. And I'm an old man yelling at fucking clouds. I've been yelling at this damn wall for too long now, and I'm starting to feel a mild bit of psychosis emerging in my brain waves here. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the video now. And listen, I'm not trying to lead a goddamn revolution. Y'all are all grown-ass adults. You can do whatever the hell you want to do with your money. You can purchase games however the hell you want to purchase games. But I will say, if you do want to see physical media stick around, I don't think it's all doom and gloom, but it definitely could get there pretty quickly if we don't vote with our wallets. So go out and buy you a damn physical copy of a game. But with that being said, guys, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. And yeah, I'll make sure that this video goes out alongside another video this week. I've been trying my best to get out one video a week, and I know this might not be the highest quality piece of content that I've ever uploaded in my life, but I've had this shit weighing on my heart, weighing heavy on my heart, something I've wanted to talk about for a while now. And then the Best Buy Walmart fiasco really made me passionately angry, and I had to get this rant off my chest here. So hopefully it wasn't too awful of a video. If for whatever reason you're new to the channel, go and check out some other stuff on the channel. I think you might find it to be of a significantly higher quality, hopefully. But yeah, for whatever reason, if you did end up liking this shit, share it, like it, comment, do all that stuff for the algorithm so it can get out there to more people and they can suffer through hearing my old ass yell at clouds. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, and I will see you good people in the next video. Goodbye.